June meeting of the Cabinet. First item on the agenda, but before we start, can I remind you that this meeting is being recorded? First item on the agenda are the minutes. You've all seen a copy of the minutes. Are you all happy to approve those? Thank you. Are there any apologies? Mrs. Phelps?
No, there are no apologies, Chairman.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No. First, number 4 item is revision of the Staffordshire Leaders Board. Could I call on Mrs. Phelps to present that report, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon, members. Just very briefly, as members may recall, in 2022, Cabinet agreed to the establishment of a joint committee known as the Staffordshire Leaders Board. It was always envisaged that potentially Stoke-on-Trent Council would join the Leaders Board, and that is indeed coming to pass. So there's a need to amend the terms of reference of that board to allow for Stoke-on-Trent to come on board. There are some very minor amendments to the terms of reference, mainly around wording. Nothing significant, nothing that impacts negatively on any of the constituent authorities. So the proposal is that members agree the revised terms of reference of the Staffordshire Leaders Board to allow inclusion of the Stoke-on-Trent City Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stokes. Any questions? The recommendations are that we agree the revised terms for the inclusion of Stoke into the terms of reference for the Leaders Board. Everyone in agreement? Thank you very much. Next item, item number 5, is the Council Plan 2024 and the report of the Chief Operating Officer, Mrs. Smith. Could you give the report, please?
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I'm very pleased to present the out-term position for the council plan that ran from 2020 to 2024. As members will be aware, the production of the current plan was followed a similar process to the previous plan of updating our data sets, producing our first place narrative and consulting with members, staff and residents. However, one of the features that was quite different to previous plans was the 5 delivery arms. On top of the performance indicators, we set the 5 arms and they became a really significant in the delivery of the actual overall council plan. Before I go through some of the highlights from the 5 delivery arms, it's also worth mentioning that we delivered this plan despite the disruption of the pandemic, as well as Brexit, the current wars and the cost of living crisis that people are still experiencing. But very pleasing to report in terms of some of the highlights. The theme of financial stability was translated into the new council plan as well. But it was the focus in the last plan started out to set out our ambitions. Despite the added pressures of delivering additional grants for COVID, we didn't waver on delivering key council initiatives such as the green waste and also driving forward on our commercial agenda. In terms of key outcomes, we distributed a total of 7,699 grants to support local businesses. We invested circa 3.4 million into our 4 leisure centres, and the team completed a major construction project, expanding the 4 Ashes industrial site. Also, as members will be aware, one of the things I'm particularly proud of is in terms of the completion of the community hub is a brilliant example of the council holding its nerve, completing the project despite the challenges of the pandemic to the valuable community resource the building is today. But from also part of that agenda was the creation of the business hubs, which was established in terms of the ambassadors group, who are focusing currently on education and skills and links to our schools. We also hosted network events and have 200 plus businesses which are members of the South Staffordshire Business Partnership. The delivery arm of working with our communities. Locality working is a great example of us not standing still. We've continued to develop our offer, creating the enabler roles and more recently expanding that with 2 additional roles, one focused on digital and one on community engagement. Generally, our teams make on average 400 plus home visits a year, supporting some of our most vulnerable residents around benefits, advice and support in particular. And our Creating Brighter Futures team are currently working with over 130 residents locally in improving their career prospects. And finally, in this section, it's worth mentioning the ward walks with local members in the corporate leadership team, which has led to the additional environmental team pilot to focus on local member priorities. In terms of embracing technology, whilst all of the delivery arms show and demonstrate key outcomes during the timeframe of the plan, it's probably through digital that we can see some of those transformational changes, and that can be seen for both our workforce and our residents. For example, the sign up of green waste has seen a huge increase in residents signing up online, and we're very close to that 90% now feel comfortable in being able to do that. And also the leisure hub, where members can book classes digitally. And it would be remiss of me not to mention the new website, and again with the accessibility tool, particularly on that is proving very helpful to our residents. And so the final delivery arm was flexible and skilled council. Our workforce development strategy has aligned our culture, our working arrangements and our people strategy with the transformation of the hub and digital working technology. The last employee survey said approximately 96% of staff would recommend the council as a place to work. And in essence, the things that feed into results are the building, providing a great place to work, and our agile working arrangements. And then finally, demonstrating our success. We do this in a variety of ways, one being obviously through national awards and continuing our high satisfaction rates from our residents. That's the end of the presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions off anyone? No, no questions? Right. So therefore the recommendation is to review and note the report. Are you all happy with that? Right, thank you. Right, we'll go on to the last item, item number 6, Integrated Performance Management Report 23-24, quarter 4 year. And the report is again going to be done by the Chief Operating Officer, Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, members. This report really complements the report on terms of the council plan in total close down, in the fact that this just ultimately relates to the final year of that 4-year plan, and particularly highlights the information on the performance, finance and risk. This includes results against performance targets set to monitor delivery of the council plan that ran from 2020 to 24. It's really pleasing to report there's been strong performance across the council in quarter 4, with 17 of the 21 council plan targets being achieved, with 4 measures receiving a RAG rating of red. Of the 17 green, wanted to highlight particularly welfare services performance. That was particularly strong in the processing of change to circumstances, achieving an average of 2.5 days against a target of 6 days. And importantly, to give our residents and visitors assurance, 95% of food businesses are rated broadly compliant food hygiene against a target of 80%. It's important to mention that as this is the final year of the council plan, the 4 indicators that are rated as red still had strong performance. However, they were slightly below the end of year target. So on that basis, we felt it was important to identify them separately. But just to give some context in terms of those 4 indicators, the online payments was just over 500 transactions short of the target. Each quarter has seen a decrease in online payments continually, but we will continue to promote e-billing and the My Login system, which should help and increase the ability for residents to make online payments. Business rates collection was 97.7% against a target of 98%. If we wanted to round it up, we would have probably got away with it. However, we felt it was important to be transparent. This is purely down to one business that was re-evaluated towards the end of the financial year, which meant that actually they're not going to make that payment until this year. So therefore, that did mean the target was not met, but importantly, it was very close. In terms of the other indicator that was RAG rated as red. It was improved business continuity and resilience. 2 of the 3 systems we'd identified were in fact implemented before April. However, the Civica revenues and benefits system was delayed and will be until later in 24. And that's purely because, again, with annual billing, it is not the right time to start changing your systems. So the new system will be done in the second half of the year, purely because we don't want it to clash with annual billing. And then the final indicator that was read was the processing of housing benefit claims. It's remained at 17 days against the target of 15 days. It's important to note that the national average is in fact 21 days, and we are aware of authorities close to us who are on 45 days. That does not mean we don't take it very seriously. There was a number of factors, though, that clearly did impact, and it was really at the beginning of the year. We have seen a significant increase in applications, and also the impact of the cost of living. Also, residents are not necessarily providing information in a timely manner. All of that impacted from the beginning of the year. And although we are seeing a consistency in our approach, we obviously overall didn't meet the target for that year. And I think it's important to stress that for the new council plan, we're reflecting on the RAG rating approach and proposing to bring forward to members a new style of adopting a more direction of travel and narrative approach to community focus based indicators. I'd also like to highlight we have a small number of indicators where they were underperforming during the life of the council plan, but have in fact ended up achieving target. Importantly, our waste management measures have all now been RAG rated as green, and seen a decrease in the service risk from 20 to 15 on that basis. Savings have been achieved in the budget as well, due to the increase in sale of recyclable materials, and again we benefited from the lower than budgeted level of inflation. Against a target for investigating 80% of planning enforcement complaints within the 12 weeks. By Q4, this was over 95% and sees a continued improvement over this year. And in Q3, this has already improved again to over 83%. Cumulatively, 302 businesses received support in 23-24, which is obviously above the target due to events, drop-in sessions and delivery of the Strive for Success business growth programme. At Q3, it stood at 67% against target, and to mitigate that, the support was launched for startups inside staff's programme in mid-December, which is why the actual target overperformed. Just in terms of the appendices that are attached to the actual report, in particular, I wanted to highlight Appendix 4, which is the off-log indicators that we will be required to report against to the government, and that each indicator is compared against our SIP for neighbours. As part of the future integrated performance management report, there will be feedback on that performance. At the moment, it's quite simply giving you the indicator output, but we will be doing some narrative in future reporting. The council is currently reviewing its risk management process, led by Beck as our finance officer, and this will involve assessing the council's current risk appetite and updating the strategic risk register and policy to ensure they remain both robust and relevant. All updates will be designed to align to the new council plan and the integrated performance management. I will now hand over to my colleague, Mrs. Mayher, to just pick up on Appendix 2 on the finances.
Thank you. Yes. So members, on page 39 of your packs, you'll see the provisional outturn for 23-24. The final outturn will be presented to Cabinet in July. This shows a positive variance of £4.2 million against the original budget, of which £3 million will be transferred to earmark reserves and £1.2 million back into the general fund. So this means a reduction in the use of the general fund reserves compared to what was originally budgeted at the beginning of the year. The main area of variance, as has been reported previously, relates to business rates and in particular Section 31 grants that the council gets to offset business rates reliefs agreed by the government. That at the time of writing this report, that area was still being finalised. Therefore, the figure against retained business rates and RSG in the provisional outturn is subject to change and will most likely change at the final outturn. However, that will only impact on the amount that will be transferred into the collection fund earmarked reserve and not the general fund reserves position. So in terms of service areas, the positive variant, there is a positive variance against service areas. Again, this relates to areas that have already been reported to you throughout the year, such as additional planning income that's been generated, as Jackie referred to, the inflation budget that was included for the waste contract actually ended up being lower than budgeted. And also the continuing high interest rates meant that our investment income continued at a higher level than we'd originally budgeted for. So those are some of the main reasons for those variances outside of business rates. There's no other significant variances that have come through in the final quarter of the 23-24, which is good to hear, good to see. And it leaves us in a far more positive and robust position in terms of our general fund reserves moving forward than as had originally thought at the beginning of the financial year. I'll go over to Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mayor. Is there any questions of any member? Some very good results. So the recommendations is that you review and note the report. Everyone's happy with that? Right. Thank you very much. That's the end of the Cabinet meeting. Thank you all for your attendance. Thank you.